Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soul Podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm really excited to be talking to Corinne today. Corinne O'Flynn is a USA Today bestselling author, certified life coach, quantum human design specialist, quantum alignment system coach, and EFT TFT tapping practitioner. Whew.
Yeah.
With over 20 years of entrepreneurial experience, Corinne is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs organize their businesses in a way that supports well-being and alignment. Corinne believes that entrepreneurs' work and life are not separate. They're integrated parts of the whole. By focusing on alignment, she helps entrepreneurs design businesses that honor their unique strengths and bring ease to their daily lives. If you're ready to step into a new way of working and living, Corinne is here to help. Corinne is a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator and the left angle cross of service. And I'm so excited to
Right angle cross of
right
service.
angle cross of service. As we know, the nodal shift happened on January the 11th, and it moved from Aries and Libra into Virgo and Pisces, or Pisces and Virgo. This is going to be a huge shift that is going to be affecting all of us for the next 18 months. So I can't wait to talk about service, the evolution of service with Corinne today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, Corinne, wow, you have a lot of certifications. I'm curious, do you have the Gate 48 in your human design chart?
I have it as a hanging gate. Yes, I do. And oddly enough, or funnily enough, that's the thing that got me into human design. I was doing something somewhere and I saw somebody talking about Gate 48. And if you have Gate 48, you will never, ever feel like you have enough of a foundation to call yourself an expert at anything. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, what? Great. I do. What do I do with that? And that's where I learned about like deconditioning and understanding that this isn't you. This is the energy. This is the pattern. This is the template. And that's what brought me in to human design. And that's what and it's interesting because I still did go for all the certifications because I do feel that I need to show you like my experience isn't enough. It's like I have to prove to you, especially because it's woo stuff that I know what I'm talking about. And but that's yeah, I have Gate 48 100%. And now I rationalize getting classes and stuff because I'm also a 1-3. So I'm an investigator. I need to try. So, but the energy of doing those two things has completely changed me. I no longer go after a certification or take another class from this place of doubt. It's curiosity now instead of needing to stand on something. So it's actually been really cool.
I love that. It sounds like through learning human design and also quantum alignment is that you learned to trust yourself, right? You're not coming from a place of doubt, but you're coming from a place of interest of, I want to dive into that rabbit hole because I want to dive into that rabbit hole. I'm a
Right.
6'2", and so I am also have the Gate 48. I am also a recovering certification junkie. But now I realize, or maybe I rationalize the reason why I dive in so deep is because I just enjoy it. I just love nerding out on
Right.
this. It's for my own pleasure, and in fact, my business is my pleasure. I enjoy everything about writing and learning and diving in deep and finding the human behavior of human design and astrology and energy psychology. And so really moving from a place of, and like you as well, moving from a place of I need to know because I don't know enough, and now it's like I need to know because I just love myself enough and I just love to learn like this.
Right. And it's I don't know, it's curiosity. And I think that the idea of in human design of passenger consciousness has really like when you really kind of think about what that means and you are separate from this body, and that this body is here with all these activations, and how that actually shakes out in a day, it really gives you permission to, experiment and explore. And I think that that was the first, that the understanding and digging into the gate 48, and that it's splenic, and that it's fear-based, and you know and no long and now I still have all those impulses, but it's like, oh, I see you there. No, I don't actually need that. And looking at the evidence, like stuff like this, like I'll get invited to speak on a podcast, or I'll be interviewed for something, or I'll want to write something, and I don't need to do research to have these conversations because I know what I'm talking about. And so, but I never feel like I'm gonna be prepared enough when the time comes. So there's always that angst about, do I need to learn more things? Do I need to get another book? Do I need to read about this? And it's, being able to make that shift into, it's no longer coming from this place of fear of inadequacy, fear of being seen as inadequate. And it's now becoming curiosity. And I really like to feed. And, in the strengths finders, my number one strength is input. And if I'm not feeding myself information, I get really low, and I get bored, and I disconnect. And so it's everywhere I look, I need to be taking in and learning, but the come from, the push behind it is completely changed now, thanks to digging into gate 48 and learning that it wasn't real.
That's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing the power of just one little gate
One
in
gate, yeah.
one gate and how one little gate can change your entire life when you can give yourself the grace, right, of learning about yourself through human design, and how that can change the way not only how you see the world, but how you view yourself.
Yeah. And I think that, we're all flawed, and we all have gate 48 in a way. All of us have all the chart, right? Like we're taught. But yeah, and what's the power there is that we're not tied to these things. It's just information, and what we can observe whether or not we're impacted by those things or not.
Absolutely. So before we press record on this podcast, we were in this deep conversation. I really wish I pressed record because it was so amazing
Oh,
and it was so, so good. But what we were talking about was on January the 11th, the nodes shifted, right? The nodes shifted, and the nodes shift every 18 months. So for the last 18 months, we saw the North Node in Aries and we saw the South Node in Libra, right? And so for the last 18 months, we've had this theme, this Aries Libra theme, moving through the collective consciousness, moving through ourselves personally, and also seeing it out in society. In fact, my unconscious side, my nodes are Aries and Libra. So I felt this deeply within myself. Now we see that the nodes have moved into Pisces and Virgo. And so for the next 18 months, we're going to see a big shift in the way that we believe in ourselves, because Pisces is all about our thoughts and our beliefs create our reality. And the way that I talk about Virgo is our reality, right? I see Virgo as Mother Earth. I see Virgo as the manifestation, right? But Virgo's also connected to service. It's connected to well-being. It's connected to what we do on the daily. And when me and Corinne were talking, I asked her what houses were going to be affected, like what houses are going to be she's going to be moving through for her next level of expansion. And what I found really fascinating was that, well, you tell us what houses are going to be affected for you.
Pisces and Virgo, or third and ninth house. In the third and ninth house, which is the same for you, which is really interesting.
Yes, yes. And so I love synchronicities, and these are the houses that are affecting me as well as my ninth and my third house as well. And so we were having this really deep conversation of the last time that this happened. And so thank goodness that there's some really good astrologers out there that do the groundwork. And we found out that the last time that there was this nodal shift that happened while Saturn and Neptune were in Pisces, and where the North Node was in Pisces. And this was back in the 1500s. Corinne, do you know a little bit about this?
Very little bit, just because we were talking about it, and also because I'm listening to those astrologers talk about it too. Like it was the French Revolution. It was this whole movement into like rejecting like this oppressive, system that was serving nobody but the top. And it's really wild to see it, it's really interesting to hear that that was the history, because of what's going on in the world right now. It's like, oh my God, like how can you deny the fact of these patterns when we know what history is? Like, we're no longer looking at like 7,000 years ago where there wasn't any written record. We're looking at like our living history where we know what happened. And yeah, like I said when we were talking before, like belief is not required. Like, this is actually fact that the energy is the same in many ways. Like, some of the outer planets are going to be, in different places as well, but it's wild to think about it, and it's exciting, and just interesting.
Well, they say that history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, right? It rhymes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so to be able to be in that rhythm, to be in that flow, to have that deeper understanding of what's to come. It is deeply intuitive. Like, yes, we can see the charts, we can look back into history to see what happened, but this isn't only just moving outside of ourselves, this is really happening within us. And so tapping inward and feeling into how is this revolution happening for me? Like back in the 1500s, this was the same time that Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church. And Martin Luther is like, here, I'm translating this Bible into German and you can read it. You can read, the God's word yourself. You can get your own interpretation. You can learn yourself. And this is a place of spiritual sovereignty. And we're seeing this reemergence of spiritual sovereignty. And human design is a beautiful, beautiful tool that helps you connect to your own sovereignty and your spiritual sovereignty, and which I love so much.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a wonderful time. I think we have, it's a wonderful opportunity. We are fortunate that there are so many people who did the groundwork, who are doing the work of sharing what these things mean, so that we can then observe how they do impact us, because they do. And it's just a matter of being aware and being open to it. And, and then what happens with that wisdom? What happens 18 months from now when we have come through that? And because I think that when I share like the cosmic weather, and here's what's happening this week, here's what's going on right now, here's what this means. And I think a lot of people, well, the feedback that I get from a lot of my people is, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, they're learning about this, they're not necessarily in it when they find me. And it's just interesting to be able to look at larger patterns, global patterns, and bigger history, and say, well, we're right back in that. And what does that look like right now outside of our window? And then be able to connect the dots yourself, and then understand that, oh, there's really has nothing, like, who am I in this is the question. How am I going to ride this is the question, not what am I going to do about it?
I love that. Even with the Pluto transit, Pluto moving into Aquarius, the last time this happened was in the 1700s. And, it was power to the people. And
Right.
back then, power to the people.
Right, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, power to the people was power to the white man. Like, let's be real, right? It was to the privileged white men. Women had no rights. People of color had no rights. And so we're seeing, once again, that history rhymes, doesn't repeat. And we're seeing power coming back to the people. But who are the people, right? Who are the people on this round? Which really, what I love about this is, you said that you have Pluto in your Virgo, right?
Yeah.
And this is all about service and the service industry. And we're seeing the power shifting to the people that provide service, the people, I don't mean lowly or by any means, but that's how we were conditioned to believe that service was, as a servant. And we're changing that. And we were talking about how you and I are not motivated by money. Money isn't our driver. It is a byproduct, but what drives us is sustainability,
Mhm.
which is very, very different. And I'd love to hear how it is that you help your clients build a business in alignment with their soul purpose, and creating sustainability.
So for the reason my business exists at all, the reason why I got involved in coaching is because of a burnout that I went through as I was writing, and I was writing a lot, and I was, the system that people publish in rewards publishing more, rapid publishing and being prolific. And that's just not sustainable. I learned for myself. Some people can do it, I can't. And but I did it for 18 months, 2 years, and I landed into this gnarly, 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 gnarly burnout. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I'm broken. I can't write anymore. I have no joy. What's happening? And all these things. And so when I started to like claw my way out of that, I was like, okay, so now, like, what does that look like from because I'm a very practical, I have an 1858, like the rank, like all of these, my cross is all about like perfection and, noticing the problems and fixing those things for the purpose of joy, right? Getting back into the it's for the betterment of everybody. It's for everyone to be in alignment. And, for me on my personal journey, it was about like getting back to basics. And I wound up relearning how to like organize my foundations first. And because I was letting all that slide and doing all this work. And I have an assistant who does some of my stuff for me, but it's mostly like marketing and things like that on the other side of the business, not in the production side of the business. And I let everything kind of falter. And so I was then feeling really unsettled. And so I came through with this, like, once you get your foundations organized, you no longer have to think about these things. And because I used to have that all done, and I got caught up in the chasing and the chasing and that's so not where I operate. And, but then there's that inadequacy, that fear of not fitting in, and that thing that you're going to be judged. And I wanted to go with all of my friends. And, which is another piece of the design, right? And learning that pulling back was the best thing was where my fire got relit again. And so that then caused all of the other people that I was working around being like, oh my God, I feel that too. Help me. And so that's where my coaching came from. I didn't even start this as a thing to be a business. It was like, but as I started doing it for my friends, it was like, oh my God, there's such a need for this. Like, we're all burnt out. Everybody needs to figure out a path through. And for people that are disorganized, or their business is not organized in a way that sustains them, like that's the brick. That's the one. That's like, you need to build this foundation so that you can do your job up here and not worry about this stuff, because this stuff is moving. And you may be a solopreneur, you may be the only person doing the work, but if it's organized, it takes so much less effort and energy and thinking to do those things. And then you can stand and do your job and serve, right, from your heart, because you are sustained, because you are supported by the work that you've done before. So that's where I come through. I come into this place where I don't believe in work-life balance. I think for entrepreneurs doesn't exist. Most of us work from our homes. Most of us choose entrepreneurship because we want that freedom, and that freedom requires that our life is integrated with our business, and that should not be shooed. That should be embraced. We should try to have that. And what does that look like? And the kernel all the way down in the center is well-being. If well-being was the goal, everything else would fall into place around that. And so that's what, when you go to my website, the first thing on the top is this: what if well-being was the goal? So
I
that was
love that
a very
so much.
long answer.
Yeah, no, and I love that so much. And from what I'm hearing is like you're moving away from the masculinity of divide and conquer, right? Like that work-life separation, and bringing it more into a feminine flow of like of embodiment of like they all work together. This is a holistic. Your life is holistic, right? You don't live just parts of your life. You live your whole life, and you need to have a good foundation of well-being. Like you have to have well-being in order to be an entrepreneur, in order to live your life to the fullest.
Right. And I think that, most of us got into business, and it's business. We're here for profit. We're here to be sustained and supported materially by our businesses. But most people got into business, especially in the soulpreneur realm, to serve. And how can we serve if we're not full? Like what, and I talk about Karen Curry Parker, and one of the reasons why I was so turned on by her was because, before I met her or even was aware of what she talks about with quantum human design, I was talking about well-being needs to be the goal. And it was like, she's like, this is the shift that we're coming into, and the well-being needs to be the goal. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language. And because that's it's not like the most important thing. It's actually all that matters. Like, your well-being is all that matters. And you can then serve everyone and help them find their well-being, their path to well-being, because you have already secured yours, or at least you understand the path to yours. It's not a thing like you done one and done and you lock the door and you have your well-being. It's a practice, and that requires accepting that we're whole people with whole lives running whole businesses. We have whole families, we have whole dogs, we have doctor's appointments and groceries, and we have all these things. And the beauty of being an entrepreneur, which is what we chose to be in my realm, my clients are entrepreneurs, for the freedom of that. Like, you're supposed to be able to go get a massage and then come back and get on Zoom for that meeting. You're supposed to be able to go grocery shopping and then, take the day off. Like, you don't need to work. Like, 9 to 5 is a construct, just like the calendar is a construct. And I think that allowing for what works for you and what is aligned for you and what empowers you and what fills your cup is the only way. It's the only way to make it sustainable. Because since making all these shifts and giving myself permission, and that's what it is, because you're like what we talked about before we started recording, like bucking the systems, the things that you're told, this is what it looks like, this is what you have to have these things, you have to sell through funnels, you have to do these things, you have to work 9 to 5, you have to you have to wear a collared shirt, and I'm like, well, I'm wearing my workout clothes under this shirt because I'm going to be working out later during my work day. You have to buck against all these things, and that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of what we talked about also, capital K, knowing. I know how this will serve me so that I can serve you, and that's all. Like, period, the end. Like, I don't know what else to say about that.
I love your message so much, and I love how aligned it is, like as I said, with the nodal shifts, right? We are redefining Virgo, we're redefining service, we're redefining what we do on the date. And we are doing it from a place of sustainability. We're doing it from a place of, I don't have to burn myself out for someone else. I don't have to, like, I come from pink collar, right? I come from healthcare, working in long-term care and mental health. And there's this, this vibe of, oh, there's overtime, you have to take it, right? You have to take it. And I'm like, I don't take overtime unless I have the energy to do so. Like, I'm not motivated, I'm not going to and that's the word that was coming up for me,
Martyr.
is martyr, right? We've come from this place of martyrdom as women, as service providers, as caregivers, is to be a martyr. And martyrdom is dead, right? Martyrdom is dead. We don't. Yes. Yes. And so when we're talking about, you got to fill your cup up first and serve from the saucer, right? You have to fill yourself up first in order to serve sustainably, in order to give sustainably, because otherwise, Corinne, as you know, you burn out and then your well-being tanks, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're bringing up martyrdom. I was in my journey of learning all these things that I've learned with human design in particular. I had a conversation about launching a coaching business and how I was struggling with my pricing and how to price my services and how to do all these things, which is a thing that women struggle with anyway. And also, gate 48, do I know enough to be able to call myself an expert so that I can charge for my services? Like, all these things. And I was having a conversation with someone, and I'm like, in my other hat, like I wear as a serial entrepreneur, manifesting generator, I also run a nonprofit. And in my nonprofit, I'm the executive director. I have no problem telling you that you should support this nonprofit with your dollar bills, and telling you that we need X dollars to do these programs, and these programs are this, 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 this. I have no problems doing any of those things. But providing the same heart to an entrepreneur for money, like, it closes my throat up. And I was told that that's martyrdom. And it's not. And martyrdom, when I heard that, I was like, how dare you? Like, martyrdom, I'm not out here being like, look at how fabulous I am over here with my volunteer and all this other work, the good works. And then this is not the same. And that's not what it's about at all. It's about compromising yourself for anything else. Like, if you compromise yourself, you are martyring yourself. And the profile, the 1-3, the investigator martyr, they use the word martyr, and you know, all these titles are so funky. It sounds like such a negative, but what they mean is like, you're just going to try it first. You're going to go first. You're going to sacrifice yourself on the fire and then come back and tell everyone what you learned. That's a fabulous way to martyr yourself. But being martyrdom, like embodying martyrdom, is it's a huge hurdle. It's a mind game, because especially for women, we are told who we are, right? And how we need to show up. And that is embodied by a lot of things that we should be calling martyrdom, and we should be labeling it as something that we need to be growing past, because it is dead. And if it's not dead, it needs to die.
I call the 1-3 the creatrix wild woman.
Oh,
And
hey.
right? Because, to me, the creatrix, she lays the foundation. She is the root. She is the birth of something new. And the wild woman forges new paths, right? She forges her new path, and it's gonna be messy, and it's gonna be wild. And yeah, she's gonna, face plants and failures are part of the process. But
Yeah.
we can take martyrdom out of the conversation, right? We
Yes.
like that's how I feel. And it's
I
not
love
like,
that.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes we need to change the language and understanding.
Oh, 100%. Because so many of these words, like, they don't mean what they mean, and they're triggering because of what we think they should mean, or what they do mean to us. And yeah. And that's been one of the most beautiful parts of really digging into what is it, what do all these labels mean, and why did they choose that word, and what, and for me, when I dig into like 848, for example, I break out like my 2 copies of the I Ching, the 2 different translations, and the gene keys, and then the old school HD, and then the quantum, and the Tao books, and like all these things to try to find the thread, because it's all connected, and everyone's just using language in whatever way they feel articulates these concepts. But it isn't always the word that we might have chosen. And it's been, I don't know. I think it's really important to go deeper than the labels, because the labels aren't what they mean.
Mhm. No, absolutely. So we've talked about where we've come from the Virgo, right? Of service, of being a martyr, of like burning out for cause, and doing it every day, right? Like this is where we've come from, and now we are we're seeing this emergence of, hey, I need to take care of myself first. Like, I need to be sustainable, and I need to take up that space, right? And I need to know what's right for me, and you don't get to tell me anymore. But let's talk about where we're moving through with Pisces, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Pisces, and Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011, right? And we've seen this new age, this new paradigm. When we talk, human design came from it too. Um, and where that's going, right? Where we're going with this new collective understanding of our spirituality, and it's no longer something outside of ourselves, right? It's within us, right? And so I'm curious, do you have any insights of how we're going to move through this, how we are moving through this in the next 18 months and beyond?
Oh, goodness. Well, when we were talking about like that heart-led business, like, I don't have any placements in Pisces in my chart. And I always struggled with that when you look at the houses and you're like, I don't have anything in my houses, but you do. You always have the planets. But when I think about the way that service is changing, I think that the way that service is changing is it's becoming heart-led. And I think that we always have had heart-led businesses, but they've always been small potatoes. They've always been, the love donation bowl at the thing. Like, it's not a business the way that it can be. And I think that for me, like you and I talked about, like, money is the byproduct. Money is not the driver, but we're in business to make money. Like, make no mistake. Like, I'm here to dominate the world and make all the money and do all the things. But the reason why I want all that money is not so that I can hoard all the money. It's that I could do so much more for the people in my circle. And again, that's not this altruistic, like, this is why it's better to give me the money than it is to give, Apple money. It's because it's not the motivator. It's not about collecting the pile of money. It's about what can that do as a resource, because that's all it is, right? It's all just energy. And when we come to something with our heart, then burnout doesn't factor anymore. And I think that coming to service through the heart requires, or actually it is only possible through integrity and character. And like, you can't serve from the heart and not be truly you. And you can totally spy the people that are trying and aren't being authentic. Like, that's when we talk about authenticity. Like, someone's totally authentic, that they're speaking from here. They're not speaking from here. And I think that when we are able to step into that takes so much courage, because then you start looking away from what we should be doing, right? And the path that has to happen. And we just say, no, this is what I'm doing. This is what works for me. This is how I'm going to show up. And I think so many people have stories about, well, as soon as they stepped into their own power, it took off. They found their people, they found their path, they found their power, they found their purpose with, in a way that wasn't possible before, because before they were shooting in the dark, basically, because they weren't actually aligned. Like, the language is all there to describe exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And I think that when you have the courage to kind of remove your car from the train track and let it roll on its own, that's where the power is. And I think that it's a beautiful thing, but it's also really scary, because it actually causes disruption, and it causes upheaval, and it causes, you have to reshuffle everything, and you might lose business, but the long term, when you come back to it, the long term is fulfillment. Like, do you wake up every morning fulfilled and ready and on fire and just so alive with what it is that you're doing? Like, we chose to be entrepreneurs. We chose this. We get to be in love with it. Like, and I believe that the path to being in love with your business is what's coming.
I love that so much. Like, Pisces is often referred to as the social worker of the zodiac. That's what I call it, the social worker of the zodiac. And truly, like, when we serve ourselves, we are serving the world, right? And it used to be spirituality or religion was only on Sundays, right? We just gave it all on Sundays, and then that's it. And now we are seeing that many soulpreneurs, or many entrepreneurs with heart, they're bringing their spiritual practices into their lives every single day. And there's, and that's what nourishes them. That's what feeds them. That's what connects them to their higher wisdom, their higher power, to God, universe, whatever language you want to use. And we're doing this more consistently. We're doing this with more intent. We're doing this not from a place of somebody else is telling me I have to do this, but it truly is, a sovereign choice. Your spirituality is now a sovereign choice. And we're serving from that place. We're serving the world from that place. I'm a huge Joe Dispenza fan. And
Mhm.
he talks about if you want to change, you got to change yourself first, right? You got to change from the inside out. And that's what I feel this Virgo Pisces axis is really teaching us is you got to change from the inside out. It has to be a daily, it can become a daily practice. Spirituality can be a daily practice. It can be a source of wisdom. It can be a source of income, right? Um, I remember back in the day, like in the early 2000s, where I was only charging $30 for a Reiki session. And my Reiki master was getting so angry because she was charging, 100, $150. And I was still in that competitive mindset where I have to undercharge, I have to undercut. And
Mhm.
I've come such a long way from there where this is part of sovereignty is like you choosing your value, you choosing your worth, you
Right.
choosing how much your services are worth versus letting the standard or letting society or letting other people tell you how much you're worth.
Exactly. And even further, like beyond choosing, it's actually understanding. Like it's understanding that the value here is immeasurable. And yeah, we live in a material society, so what does that look like? And you are allowed to charge for your services in the exchange. And it's I recently I had a membership that I closed because the energy exchange wasn't there. Like it was difficult to get activity, and it wasn't money. It was the exchange of ideas and people showing up, and it was off of Facebook. So I like that's one of my things. I'm like, I just don't want to be part of the social media thing. And so I started this community, and you know, being able to say the exchange isn't there. This isn't what I want. I'm closing this. Took a lot of courage, but it was 100% where it was coming from. And I'm still here. I'm still serving. I'm just not doing it that way. And I realize now that I'm not even supposed, like I was trying so hard to do that because I was told that that's what a business requires. And I was like, my business does not need that. Like, I don't need that. What am I doing this for? And, even this happened in December. Like very recently, like you're constantly iterating and you're constantly learning who you are, and you get to keep reinforcing who you are and how you show up in your world and what is and what is not serving you. And if it's not serving you, it's draining you. And I think that we need to really become curators of every aspect of our life, but especially our business, because our business is, again, it's not this thing that happens over here. It's an integrated part of our life. And if it's not filling us, if it's not helping, it's draining. It's not stagnant. It's not this like harmless bubble of thing over here. It's either serving you or it's draining you. And we don't have room for that anymore. We have to show up. The world needs heart-led people.
Yes, the world needs us, right? It's our time. It's our time to shine. And we're not just doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for the world, right? Like, and perhaps that's the sacrifice. But I don't see it that way.
I
But
want a world in which that's something that's normal. Like, I live in a world where I know a lot of people like you and who are doing the work like I work. Like, I have a lot of peers that are doing the thing, but we're still fringe. Like, the world needs this, and we need more people to be doing it from the heart, like from the heart.
yes, collaboration over competition, right? Like let's do this all together. Like let's link arms. The way that you, Corinne, serve through human design, through being a quantum alignment specialist, through EFT tapping, I have those exact same certifications. But the way that you're going to share it is going to be completely different from the way that I'm going to share it, right? So there is no competition.
No, and it's interesting. That happens a lot in authorland. In authorland, there's a lot of scarcity, and there's a lot of, if you buy my book, you're not going to buy another book. And I'm like, do you know any reader who doesn't have a whole like library full? Like, this is only one of many, 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 many bookshelves in my home. Like, we all there's room for everybody, and that is the case in everything. And I think that whether or not we're competing, like even if you and I were doing the exact same thing, and if we had the same exact client profile, There will be times when somebody resonates more with you than with me, or I'm not available. Hey, go check out, go visit with Tammy. She's got appointment times. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore. The scarcity thing doesn't, it's a fake, it's fake, and it needs to go away because it's not even real. And if you live in that place, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you're causing the scarcity to be your truth. And all it takes is a switch. You got to just flip that switch and see. Like, I dare you to prove me wrong, because you can't. It's like, once you step out of that scarcity and you move into that place of embracing and being open, even if you are in a direct competition with somebody else, there are 7 billion, 8 billion, how many billions of people are on this planet? And, and we don't align with everybody. There's room for all of us. And the world needs all of us.
Absolutely.
Like, what is it, Karen, who talks about us all being part of this tapestry? And the tapestry doesn't work without all of the threads. And if you pull one of the threads out, we got a hole. Like, everybody's here to do their thing. And yeah, there's room for everybody.
Yes, you are worthy just because you exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
My last topic that I really want to talk to you about, Corinne, is about writing. Now, we've talked about how the Virgo and Pisces axis is affecting your ninth and third house. Third house is all about the way that you communicate, what's in your mind, right? Sometimes it's the angel and the devil on your shoulders, but it really is about communication. And ninth house has publication as an aspect of it. And you said that you took a break of writing for the last 18 months. And I'm curious.
Which is so wild. I wasn't aware.
And now here we are back in that focus, perhaps for you, because, and me as well, because I have the same houses that's being affected. So I'd love to hear, is the joy, is the interest, is the love of writing coming back to you?
Oh, 1,000-fold. It's so interesting. Like, and it just clicked in my mind because I don't follow astrology like that. Like, I wasn't aware of the nodal shift 18 months ago, but like, it tracks completely with what I was doing. Like, what? But I learned recently, I had a reading with a coach, not a reading. She's a channel, and we were just talking about different stuff. And I was talking about this pivot that I'm going to be doing and switching back into putting writing back on the front burner. And like, all the things I'm doing are still happening. I'm just putting different things in different places. And I feel really strongly that my coaching business is in a place where I know, because I was building for the last 18 months and I was putting all the things, building the foundation, and the foundation exists and all the things are in place. And now I can still serve my clients. And also I have space because I, by design, built the space so that I can get back to writing, because writing is my thing. And one of the things that I discovered during this session with this woman in December, because I was coming from this place of doubt, I was like, instead of putting curiosity out there, I turned it inward, and I was doubting, am I making a mistake? Was this a waste of time? Did I do all this just to ignore it? Like, what's happening? And I discovered that all of my businesses, all of the things that I've ever created in the world came to fruition, came to be through my writing. Like, writing is the first piece. Like, my business stuff started through blogging and sharing online. My writing about different things, my articulation about whatever it was, through writing. My nonprofit, which is for child loss support, after I lost my daughter years ago, 1999, on GeoCities, remember those, the websites, the GeoCities websites? I was blogging about grief. That's how this, like, my nonprofit came to be, because people were like, oh my God, me too. Oh my God, me too. Oh my God, can I print this and share this with my family? You just totally articulated something. Like, and now that's 20 years ago that my organization, well, that's 25 years ago, 26 years ago, but my organization turns 20 years old this year. And I'm going to be publishing all those essays in a book that I've never published before. But I came to understand that writing for me is step one. It's the first piece, and it's where I go to at all times. Like, when I'm sitting down, I'm trying to figure something out, I'm journaling. When I am, like, my children are struggling with something, I'm like, hey, write it down. Like, writing is the core, and we know all the things that it does with our brain and with our comprehension and with our thinking. and with our remembering of things. But for me, the energy of writing has always been like that background frequency, but my understanding of the power of it for me has completely changed. Like I realized that it is actually it's my number one. So yeah, and when I decided to do my writing again and bring it back up, and I was telling you that I'm publishing another book, and a fiction book very soon, the fire wasn't there in December. And I was like, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. I was still racked with doubt because I was like, I just spent 18 months building something and I'm not closing it, but I'm shifting. And then I went on vacation and I came back, and you know how the new year doesn't start until we hit gate 41.
Till my birthday.
On the 21st, 22nd.
21st, 22nd. My birthday's the 27th, but I'm still the 41.
Yeah, you'd be in the 41, right? That's not our new year. And I'm like, okay, so if I allow for that to be the thing, like we're still in prep and planning. And when I leaned into that, the energy of like, I'm eyeballing what's happening. The fire came online. I came back from my family, went on vacation after the holiday, and I'm like, what? And I like the ideas are flowing and everything, I'm dropping into it. And and again, I knew the nodal shift was coming because now I'm tapped into all that stuff, but I was not thinking about it from a Pisces Virgo aspect and what that means for writing. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that insight. My whole thing is your passion is your purpose, right? Like your purpose isn't going to be found in human design and astrology. Your passion is your purpose. Your human design is your how, but the astrology is the when. And that's why I love wrapping the three together. And so I'm gonna drop this here for you. So the last 18 months, what was being affected for you was your fourth house, your home, your foundation, and your 10th house, how you're seen, the way that you show up in the world. And so you taking a step back from writing, coming back into what's true for you, what feels good, what feels grounded for you, how you want to show up for the world. Now, in this 18-year cycle, so you said 20 years ago you started writing. Well, here we are again in this new cycle where you have that new embodied wisdom, you have that new understanding, you have that new grounded message to share, a new language to share it with. So I'm really excited to see what this next 18 months brings for you.
It's wild to observe it. I just think it's amazing. I love it. I love it. And I'm so curious by it. And it just, and when I don't hold on to a lot of that stuff, like I have a lot of books because I have to I don't know if it's my open head, open ajna, but like I can't retain all of that until, like we talked about, until I embody it. And I will now be able to grab the nodes that we're in now. But before that, it was not something that I could follow, like, and hold on to, because it didn't make sense to me. It didn't mean anything to me because I wasn't experiencing it consciously like that. And so it's just kind of cool to be able to talk about it like that.
Yeah, it's funny because I also have an open head and Aj. I'm open everywhere except for my spleen and my will center. Like I'm open everywhere. And people ask me all the time, how do you retain it? Like how can you just pull it up all the time and feel like and do it confidently? And that's where, right? Like I can say it with conviction, with competence. Like I sound like an expert,
Right.
but the truth is because and this is how human design can really help us is when you learn something in the mind, it's knowledge, right? It's knowledge, but until you learn it, until it lights you up, until, like you said, oh, I got this insight and I feel it in my body. Well, now it moves through your body and it becomes embodied, and that becomes part of your story, that becomes part of your wisdom, that becomes part of your confidence, your courage, and your conviction, is because it comes from a place of knowing, like knowing with a capital K versus what's up there.
Which is wisdom versus knowledge, right? Like the knowledge is the information and the wisdom is the knowing. And the wisdom is, like, again, this is the gold nuggets that we talked about before you hit record. Like that's what it's about. Like if you're able to really bring it into your body, and then going back to that whole concept of passenger consciousness and how we are not our bodies, we're driving our bodies. And how do we drive our bodies best? Human design can show us where we're hitting the bumps. But yeah, because once you bring it in, you don't need to remember anything because it is. like, so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I love that. So, Corinne, if somebody wanted to work with you, not or, and if somebody wanted to read one of your books, because let me tell you, I have read one of her series before, and if you're into like paranormal romance with spicy and just like kind of reading, you got to read her books. You got to read her
So I
series.
want to, yeah, okay, I'll share my websites with you guys, but I want to caveat that, like, I have three pendings. One is Corinne O'Flynn, and that's me, and I write fantasy and young adult stuff, coming of age stories, and reluctant heroes. Well, reluctant hero is like a theme through all of my books. And then I have Daria Blake, and she writes contemporary romance, which is real world male female hot stuff. And that was the project that burnt me out, because it was 21 months of writing every month, and they're novellas. And then Fiona Starr is the one that you're familiar with. That's paranormal romance, and it's reverse harem paranormal romance. And that's one woman with several men. And like, yes, it's spicy. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it's fantastic. But the reason I write it is because it's girl power. She chooses. It's about her. She completes the circle. It's everything focuses on her. She's the reason it's all there. And I love it. And what's better than one love story? Three love stories. And so you get to tell them all at once. So my writing can be found at bingeworthyfiction.com, and my coaching is at CorinneO'Flynn.com. And I have one R and two N's in both of my Corinne and O'Flynn.
And I'm going to share the links for both of those in the show notes, so you'll be able to find both of those. I highly recommend reading her books. That's probably why I loved it so much. Like this fantasy of three men, like and yeah, the woman being the power, like the woman being the one that ties everything together, right? Like, I really enjoyed that
Thank
series for
you.
sure.
Thank you. It's funny, like, as a writer, when I don't know, like in authorland, when people hear like, "Oh my God, I'm reading your book," it's like, "Oh my God." Like, and I'm not ashamed of the spice at all, like, whatever. But it's just this pressure. Like, I hope you enjoy it. Oh my God. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, there's like typos, there's got to be problems with the book. Like, and it's like, you know what? No, like, you know what? You're enjoying it. And my gate 48 is showing up there, because I sell a lot of these books, and I have a lot of good reviews, and like, I can stand on the power of these books. Like, yes, I know that these are good stories, and I think, whatever. It's interesting to be like, oh my God, we're told that we can't have that power. And so I write it for the women.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Corinne, for being on the Soul Prism podcast. I can't wait, like I said, to see what shows up for you in your world and what you publish in the next 18 months, and continue following what you're working on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's always good to talk to you.
Oh, always a pleasure. All right, that's it, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.